How to respond to colleagues who talk down to you without losing confidence. Some colleagues do not ask what you already know. They explain things in a slow, superior, or patronizing way, then make it seem as though you were the one who did not understand. Being spoken to in a condescending way can make you feel small, embarrassed, frustrated, or quietly undermined in front of other people. The difficult part is responding without sounding emotional, defensive, or rude yourself. You can correct the assumption without creating unnecessary conflict. Why some colleagues behave like this? Not every condescending colleague is intentionally trying to insult people. Some genuinely believe they are being helpful. But in many workplaces, over-explaining can also become a subtle social behavior connected to status, insecurity, control, or wanting to appear knowledgeable in front of others. Some people want to look experienced in front of managers or coworkers. Some people assume others know less without even asking first. Some people use knowledge as a way to feel more respected or important. Some people interrupt or over-explain because they are competing socially, not communicating clearly. Some people are simply unaware that their tone sounds patronizing. Sometimes it is intentional, sometimes it is unconscious. Either way, being constantly spoken to as though you know nothing can slowly affect confidence and make workplace conversations uncomfortable. Confident people usually do not need to constantly prove they are the smartest person in the room. Why this behavior affects people emotionally. What makes this behavior frustrating is not just the explanation itself, it is the assumption behind it. Many people leave these conversations thinking, do they think I'm stupid? Did everyone else think I didn't understand? Why didn't they ask what I already knew first? Were they trying to embarrass me? Over time, repeated interactions like this can make people feel smaller, quieter, or overly defensive at work. The difficult part is responding calmly, without sounding rude, emotional, or insecure yourself. How to stay professional under pressure. When someone talks down to you, there is often a strong urge to immediately prove yourself. Common emotional reactions include, I know that already. Why are you talking to me like that? Do you think I'm stupid? These reactions are understandable, but they can sometimes make you look emotional instead of making the other person's behavior obvious. Real confidence is not always speaking louder or reacting faster. Sometimes it is staying calm enough that someone else cannot pull you into looking defensive. Calm responses that protect your confidence. Calm responses help you correct the assumption without turning the conversation into a personal argument. The goal is not to win the interaction. The goal is to protect your confidence while keeping your communication professional. Better ways to respond without shrinking yourself. Structure 1. Confirm what you already know. Situation. A colleague explains a system you have used many times. Less effective. I already know how this works. Better. Yes, I'm familiar with that part. I was checking whether anything has changed. Why this works. It corrects the assumption calmly. It shows competence without sounding aggressive. It moves the conversation to the useful detail. Structure 2. Redirect them to the specific point. Situation. They keep explaining basic background instead of answering their actual question. Less effective. That's not what I asked. Better. I understand the background. The part I wanted to check is the next step after that. Why this works. It stops the over-explaining politely. It keeps you in control of the conversation. It makes your actual question clearer. Structure 3. Ask them to be more precise. Situation. They speak vaguely, but in a tone that suggests you are confused. Less effective. You're not explaining it well either. Better. Can you clarify which part you think needs changing? Why this works. It avoids personal criticism. It makes them explain the real issue. It prevents them from hiding behind a superior tone. Structure 4. Set a calm boundary. Situation. They repeatedly explain things in a patronizing way. Less effective. Stop being condescending. Better. I'm happy to discuss the work, but I'd prefer we keep the tone respectful. Why this works. It names the behavior without insulting them. It sets a professional boundary. It keeps the focus on respect and communication. Example in a real conversation. Situation. You ask a colleague whether a document has been updated. They start explaining what the document is, as though you've never seen it before. Colleague. So basically, this document is where we put the client notes. That means people can read it later. Defensive response. I know what the document is. Better response. Yes, I'm familiar with the document. I was just checking whether the latest client notes have been added. This response calmly corrects the assumption and brings the conversation back to the real question. Useful phrases to keep ready. Yes, I'm familiar with that part. I understand the basics. I'm checking the specific detail. I've worked with this before, but I wanted to confirm the update. That makes sense. My question is slightly different. Can we focus on the part that needs a decision? I'm happy to discuss it, but let's keep the tone professional. The strongest response is often calm, short, and specific. You do not need to over-explain your own intelligence to prove that you understand. When it keeps happening, if the same colleague repeatedly talks down to you, keep notes of specific examples. Write down what happened, when it happened, who was present, and how it affected the work. This helps you avoid making it sound like a personal complaint. Instead, you can describe a pattern of communication that affects collaboration. How to raise it professionally. Situation. You need to speak to the colleague directly or mention the pattern to a manager. Less effective. They keep trying to make me look stupid. Better. I've noticed a pattern where basic points are explained to me in front of others, without checking what I already know. It can make the conversation less productive. Why this works. It focuses on behavior, not name-calling. It explains the practical effect. It is easier for a manager to understand and address. How spekero can help. You can use spekero to practice calm workplace responses before you need them in a real conversation. Try recording the same sentence in different tones: calm, irritated, firm, and friendly. Listening back helps you notice whether your voice sounds confident or defensive. You may also find different tones of speaking useful if you want to understand how tone changes the message. A condescending colleague can make you feel as though you need to prove yourself immediately. But confidence often sounds calmer than that. You can acknowledge useful information, correct wrong assumptions, and set boundaries without sounding rude. That is not weakness.